What's up, everybody, and welcome back to SCWPC, the Screen Warrior podcast, episode 2, where I'm here with, it's all hosts today, we don't have any guests, where I'm here with Buzz, and I'm here with Paquita. Say hello, peeps.
Hello.
There we go. Are you not going to say hello, Buzz?
How is everybody? Everybody is great.
All is good in the world of Ireland. It's hot as hell right now, but other than that, it's fine. There's things on fire.
It's 100 degrees here too, so I think.
I think it's just hot everywhere. I think we're just all on the sun.
It's 100
we
degrees
moved to
of
the
Fahrenheit.
and we didn't know.
I think we all might melt. We all might melt.
I'm actually melting as we speak because the Irish are not designed for this kind of heat.
I got pretty melted about a week and a half ago, so I feel you. And be careful. Wear lots of sunscreen.
Paquita was actually supposed to be on our last podcast for anyone who didn't know, but regretfully
yes, I'm very sorry about that. I was supposed to be here. I was on vacation. I got horrible sunburn and I had to go to urgent care. It was a big deal. So my point is, I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I'm very happy to be back as your co-host for the Screen Warriors podcast.
The point I was trying to get to was you were suffering from melting last week.
I was suffering from melting.
We're not even one episode in and Hollywood on us already.
Is it
Hollywood? I'll introduce myself, or I am.
Give the listeners a little bit of info on yourself.
I am Paquita, aka Rachel, whatever you'd like to call me. I am a contributor to Horror Amino and Scream Radio. I write reviews. I do solo reviews and also collaborative reviews with my good friend Buzz for Horror Amino and Scream Radio.
That Buzz guy that you do reviews with is a pretty cool guy.
He is a pretty cool guy.
He's a pretty cool guy.
And I write reviews, like I said, with Buzz. So you can follow me on Twitter at PaquitaS3. Fantastic.
PaquitaS3. What a nice and snappy Twitter handle, I must say, Buzz.
I don't know. I didn't add the S3. They added the S3. So
wait till we get to my Twitter. That's a doozy.
Get a pen.
Yours is complicated.
And a pen and a sticky note.
Wouldn't the Twitter handle Buzz SCRM or SCRM Buzz?
Yeah, I'll F around with that, but then it means I'd have to go and start changing everything and Apple. So we'll figure it out.
Sounds like a lot of work.
All right, Johnny, do you want to give yourself a reintroduction to our listeners?
The reintroduction. Okay, I'm Johnny. I'm a host of TheGorecast, which is a horror themed podcast with a sprinkling of comedy in there as well, with my co-host The Giz, and we're also a TV show on the American Horrors channel that we were supposed to have a premiere at the end of last week's episode, but regretfully due to technical difficulties that has been delayed for a week or two. But we will be back on American Horrors. There will be a July 4th special on the AmericanHorrors.com website as well that you can check out.
Yay!
And there's a very, 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 very funny promo on the Gorecast YouTube page if you want to check that out as well for the July 4th, where we get to play dress up on a green screen, because I like doing that.
Awesome.
And you can find us pretty much on any social media platform with either the Gorecast, or TheeUnderchannel very originally.
Awesome.
Well, my name is Buzz, if you don't know already. I am a reviewer for Scream Radio and for Horror Amino. I do solo reviews and some collab reviews with the lovely Paquita.
Aww.
And you can find me on Horror Amino, and you can also find me on Twitter at Buzz14500517.
That's at Buzz41500517.
Yeah, it's gonna be a new song. We might work it in as
trying to rework the Jenny song until
8675309.
That's so funny.
That is the reintroduction of myself. What I want to do really quick before we get into this week's episode, I want to give a special shout out to a couple of buddies of mine who run a podcast called TheeUnderchannel. It's spelled THEE Underchannel. I put a link to their YouTube channel in the description when we get this done. But they are actually a couple buddies of mine. They do podcasts where they pretty much talk about a little bit of everything: music, movies, news, sports. I'm going to be on their episode today. Actually, literally just dropped a couple of minutes ago on their YouTube channel. So I did a interview for the upcoming free agency in the NHL, which starts this Sunday. So
Nice.
If you're listening here and you're a hockey fan, head over to their channel and hear me blab about hockey for about a half hour. So the two things I love to do: talk horror and talk hockey. So
And wrestling.
Woo!
Don't forget about the wrestling.
And wrestling. Yeah.
and wrestling. I forgot about that. I apologize. I just like to talk, I guess, is what the main thing we're getting
The
here.
bottom line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Sports. Woo! Horror.
So,
Woo! Sports entertainment.
today's episode for you guys is we're going to go over the evolution of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Attempt to.
Because this Saturday we'll be doing the live podcast on Horror Amino, where we're going to go and give our in-depth thoughts on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And you can join me, Paquita, Johnny, and Tracy from Scream Radio, as well as some special guests that we're still working on to get on the podcast as we give our thoughts on the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Well, I do have thoughts, so that's good.
Oh, so many thoughts.
To get started into the evolution of the Nightmare on Elm Street movie franchise, first, I will give a little bit of backstory for those who are not familiar with the backstory. The movie itself, Wes Craven, the late director Wes Craven, came up with the idea for the Nightmare on Elm Street movie, the original, about a refugee family that moved to the States, and one of their sons was having really bad nightmares and was telling his parents that he refused to sleep because he was afraid the man in his dreams would get him. And he would do everything in his power to stay awake, coffee, pills, whatever he could do. And one night he finally fell asleep, so the parents and the family thought the whole ordeal was done, and they actually heard him screaming in his bedroom. And by the time they got to his bedroom, he had passed away in his sleep. So that is where the basis of the dream part of the Nightmare on Elm Street came from. And the inspiration for Freddy Krueger, the character himself, came from a guy who used to walk outside Wes Craven's bedroom when he was a kid. And he looked out the window one night and saw this guy. He stopped, looked up at Wes as a kid, where he had the top hat, had this really nasty looking face, and kind of that stuck with Wes Craven.
I had no idea. That's really interesting.
It actually kind of inspired the opening scene, one of the opening scenes where he's just standing in that alleyway, ominously backlit.
Yeah.
The movie, the first movie was released in 1984. And another piece of information is Robert Englund actually wasn't the original choice for Freddy Krueger.
That's fine. It's not important. Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger and will always be. So that's what he is known for, and that's what he does so well.
That's actually a very valid point. He was known for V, if you were unaware.
Yes. Yep, that was before Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
That actually got him a lot of notoriety, and that's how he ended up falling into the secondary role of Freddy, I suppose, seeing as number one wasn't available.
Yeah. Well, my point was, when you think Robert Englund, you think Freddy Krueger, and that's it for me personally. But other people could think of him as someone else, but he's just this iconic actor who's singular in that he's so well known for just this one role. But I mean, of course he has done other stuff, but it's just he is Freddy Krueger, and that's who he will always be to me.
And The film was released through New Line Cinema, who was actually like a very very new company at the time.
Mm-hmm. I love New Line Cinema.
Yeah.
They kind of go out and say that New Line Cinema was the house that Freddie built, because that was the first really big hit and continued throughout the franchise.
Well, they literally used sorry, I won't call them Freddy Krueger movies, although you could call them Freddy Krueger movies. Yeah, I'll call them Freddy Krueger movies. They literally used Freddy Krueger movies to bankroll the rest of the company, because it was just like, okay, people are loving these goddamn things. So it's like, okay.
And I don't think anybody expected it to be so sort of wildly successful. So I don't think New Line expected that. I don't think anybody did. One of those extremely happy surprises.
Well, it was a magical symbiosis, really, wasn't it, between leading bad guy
really
and very, very cool premise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, as you said a minute ago, with the way it was Nightmare on Elm Street made Robert Englund, to another extent, it could be Robert Englund that made Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, definitely both. Definitely both. Robert Englund is a very charismatic actor, and like he really, I mean, when you think about taking on a role like that and getting the voice down and the mannerisms and like really getting into character for Freddy Krueger, that must be extremely difficult, like actually to get the humor down and just every aspect of that character. And he really is an amazing actor for that.
He actually based his the physicality of Freddy, how he like carried and walked, on Klaus Kinski's performance of Nosferatu the Vampire from 1979.
Sure.
You can see a lot of that, especially in how how Freddy appears in the first movie. In the initial, his initial appearance in a lot of scenes is through this ominous silhouette kind of creeping up a wall, and then the man appears afterwards, and that's synonymous with Nosferatu as well. Almost
this sort of shadowy, like lumbering figure. Yeah. Exactly.
Another interesting thing about the first movie is that they actually use 500 gallons of fake blood to film the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
I wonder wherever most of that could have gone.
Some bed scene, maybe?
Yeah, Johnny Depp's bed scene, maybe, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Another interesting tidbit that the listeners might want to know if they don't was actually Heather Langenkamp's boyfriend is actually credited for coming up for the nursery rhyme, the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Yeah, I love it. Anyway.
You're way better at doing that than I am.
Heather Langenkamp is an interesting actress. I think she's a really good horror actress, and especially in the first one, she really drives the movie. She's beautiful, but in like a very natural kind of all-American way.
Girl next door.
And she really makes you root for her because I don't know, she makes her fear just seem very real. And she's been in 3 of the Nightmare films, but obviously not all of them. But I don't know if exactly it was before or after, but she was on a series called Just the 10 of Us that ran for quite some time. And I just think it's very interesting to sort of jump from this like really cheesy sort of TV series to these amazingly successful horror films, like either before or after. Don't know the exact timeline of that, but she's had a good career, and she's really just mainly known for, her work on the Nightmare on Elm Street films, but she actually does special effects as well, which is interesting. I didn't know that before I read up on her. And she did special makeup effects for Cabin in the Woods, I believe, as well as the remake of Dawn of the Dead. And I just find her to be a very interesting person and an interesting actress. And I think that she really drives the first Nightmare film and Johnny Depp. What can we say? I guess that's the film that made him a star.
That boy knows how to die.
Well, her husband was actually a special effects artist.
That makes
later
sense.
on, and I know he was based. When we get to the New Nightmare, that character was kind of almost, that movie was pretty much real life to her. But we'll get on that when we get closer to when we talk about the New Nightmare. But the TV show that you were talking about, that was actually, I think, after the third Nightmare on Elm Street, because there is actually two other actors, female actors that are in that movie, or on the TV show, I'm sorry, were also in two other Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yeah,
so they actually had a couple of times where they made references to the Nightmare on Elm Street. Throughout a couple episodes of the TV show.
I will be honest and say that I used to watch Just the 10 of Us at my grandmother's house when I was a little kid, and I actually liked that show when I was a little kid. But it now being older and wiser, I realize how obviously kind of terrible it is. But that is interesting that she would jump from like the first Nightmare film that was so successful to this sort of kind of cheesy TV series.
What I always liked about the Nancy character was she's a lot more fight the bad guy than any other horror leading lady I'd seen in any movie. Usually it's like they just try and survive, and they do survive.
Yeah.
And that's a big achievement. Whereas Nancy's like, I'm gonna take this mother effer on. Let's do this.
She's a fighter.
She's a scrappy.
I respect that.
I would say the one that would probably, I guess it was more the survivor part as well, but she reminds me a lot of like Jamie Lee Curtis in the first Halloween movie.
Yeah, like really a fighter, and not just like this helpless little girl.
Nancy took it to the next step.
Well, Nancy went home alone on it, didn't she?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it did, like, the movie itself, like, blew people's minds, like we were saying. Like, New Line did not expect this movie to be kind of their big thing, because box office wise, the first Nightmare on Elm Street made $25.5 million. It took them only about $1.8 million to film and make it. So, they definitely made their money back.
And again, I'm sure that they were not expecting that. So, or if they were, then they were extremely confident.
The thing I think is, like, when you look at the time period when the first one was released in 1984, the slasher genre was already, like, established, and we had so many knockoffs after, like, Friday the 13th and after Halloween. We had so many knockoff cheap horror movies where it's just this maskless, faceless killer with no personality killing people. And now we finally got a killer with personality that had a lot of creative skill. And I think that really spoke to the fans when the original Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 1984.
If you want to talk about the personality of the Freddy character and how big it was, like, if you think about the unspoken act that he's very, very well known for, but has never been officially documented through the series, what that is and the ramifications of all of that and what it makes him in general, and then still how popular everybody is, and they just run up and give Freddy a big hug, that says something about how overpowering of a personality he is.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, you can almost empathize. Sure, I agree.
So moving, like we said, the first one was just such a big success that New Line didn't expect, and
not planned at all was the words I believe was used.
Yeah, obviously you knew as soon as the numbers were coming in that they're gonna do a sequel. That's just
Yes.
how obviously how the horror movies and movies in general, how that happens. So
Indeed.
we'll get into moving on to part 2, which has the distinction of being one of the quote unquote gayest horror movies.
It was
because
it was in 2012 the #1 gayest horror movie in the top 10.
Yeah.
There's a lot of innuendo going on there.
Innuendo.
The best part is that they didn't realize it while filming it. They found more out of it after that.
Are you telling me it was all Freudian?
Well, there was a certain level of Freudianness to it, and there was also the guy that played the lead character, when he found out how everybody had just been oblivious to how gay the movie was turning out, was like, "Are you joking me?" Like, when I read the script, I thought that's why I got the part.
Yeah.
Because they didn't realise when they heard him he was a gay actor. He was out, but it wasn't a big thing. Do you know what I mean? So not everybody knew about it, so they didn't even know he was gay when they'd cast him.
Yeah, it shouldn't be important. I mean, it is important in that it's a huge aspect of Nightmare 2.
Yeah, it shouldn't be important, I agree with you, but due to it and how certain elements of the story were played out in the movie, it kind of lended more to that area of it.
Absolutely.
It very much appeared to be about that.
When you got the gym teacher being toweled in the shower, and the fact that Freddy coming out of his body, and
even when he's the first time that he meets him, where they're on the staircase, there's this kind of seductive rub of the blades down the side of his face.
It's so obviously like this at first sight kind of moment. It's very strange. Yeah.
The fact that he'd rather sleep at his buddy's house instead of like being with his girlfriend when he's like freaking out about Freddy.
Yeah.
Well, bro time. What are you gonna do? So.
Well, and also,
actually, speaking of bro time, that was some awesome special effects. That scene with Freddy literally bursting out of him was just
with the stomach.
Oh man, so good.
And the funny thing is, the director of part 2 actually really didn't like the first Nightmare on Elm Street. So that's also another part where it's kind of like how. I mean, it's kind of good because then you can get a different perspective of it. But then it's also, how are you going to do the first film justice if the person making it wasn't a fan?
That's true, but he clearly made it his own. So,
this is what I was saying off camera.
Yes, exactly. He made it his own sort of.
Well, he made Freddy come in the real world, didn't he? Which is kind of.
Yes.
I'm all for breaking a rule or two here, but here's what bugged me about Freddy in the real world, right? They're at the pool party. Let me set the scene for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. They're at the pool party. There's a good 50 teenagers there, a lot of them from the American football team of the said school that they go to. So some big beefy dudes at that party, and then little old Freddy comes out with his one claw. I'm just kind of like, lads, little old Freddy, who's very, very much human now, except that he's able to walk through walls when on fire. But other than that one little point, I just feel bundle and the problem would have been solved.
I'm going to summarize the whole film as sort of like a homosexual exploration of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. So it is a bit singular in that way. And you don't really, when you're young and watching it, you don't really think about that. But when you're revisiting it, as being older and wiser, it's so blazingly obvious.
I will say, when I was young and watching it, that dance scene, I was like, that's a bit weird. I was about like 12 or 13. I couldn't put my finger on why the dance scene was weird, but it was just like, that's a very odd dance for a bloke to be doing.
Exactly.
He's stripper pole dancing that baseball bat. Is that just me?
The interesting thing about it is it's actually the only Nightmare on Elm Street to have a lead character as a male lead character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like all the other ones were all the females. This one was actually the first male-led character.
Male-led character rescued by his, at the time, I'd imagine, about to be soon surprised girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yes. Very.
And another interesting thing was New Line Cinema originally refused to give Robert Englund a pay raise, so they actually had somebody else when they first started play Freddy, but he was just so bad and so terrible.
He's credited as dude in suit.
Well, Robert Englund is Freddy. What are you gonna do? You can't mess with that.
Even though Freddy didn't talk as much as he did in the movies previous to one, there was this certain animation to the way he moved on camera.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
this dude in suit just kind of did the very Frankensteinish.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
It really wasn't until 3 that Freddy came out as came out as being a really fully developed character with a sense of humor and just being more of a developed Freddy and call people bitch and
welcome to
that's
prime
when
time,
all
bitch.
that he really super came to life in Dream Warriors.
So that's a good transition. Welcome to Primetime Bitch is a perfect transition to move into Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Probably next to the original film, and maybe even some other people find this is probably the best Nightmare on Elm Street movie overall.
I am one of those people. I agree with you.
I
agree with that statement.
Freddy found his footing.
Yes.
Yeah. And we also
came to life.
Bring back past characters with Heather Langenkamp coming back as Nancy.
Yes.
And John Saxton returning as her father.
Yeah. Who's a bit pissed. He's a bit pissed through the whole film, isn't he?
And this film has fully developed characters and great actors. Patricia Arquette is amazing and really drives the film. Obviously, she's a great actress, and any movie that is set in sort of a mental institution premise has my attention immediately. So I don't know, this movie, as far as the rest of the Nightmare movies, probably scared me the most. So I think it's wonderful.
Definitely, it really expanded more, I think, onto the supporting cast. I think it gave the supporting cast a lot more worth, and some of the most iconic death scenes in the Nightmare franchise came from this movie. Like we were saying, the Welcome to Primetime Bitch with the TV.
There's the marionette boy.
And just the opening sequence alone of Dream Warriors just grabs your attention with, Patricia Arquette, making the, with the glue and the coffee and the, it really sets the tone of the film so well.
Yeah, the best kill from part 3 was the marionette kill.
Oh yeah.
That was awesome.
Where that guy was sleepwalking and Freddy's got his tendons and stuff and he's acting like a little puppet. That was probably, to me, the best kill of the series, I thought.
That was awesome. That was so good and so scary and bloody, and the effects were great. And I completely agree with you that's also my favorite kill from Dream Warriors. I think it's very kind of an iconic, very iconic kill. I think
they
a lot
also
of people
gave a nod to. They also gave a nod to Army of Darkness with the end, with Freddy's skeleton, kind of.
So what I can say about Dream Warriors is it's a very strong film, and it really is the film where Freddy becomes the fully developed Freddy Krueger, and he is in full-on character mode, and I think it it's just a overall really great film with great actors from past films coming back. I really enjoyed that about it as well. So it really is my favorite of the franchise.
I just wanted to mention that point. I wasn't going to get into a full blown thing on the movie.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where they're intertwined. So you know that certain ones are going to kind of be callbacks. So it's kind of, like you said, hard to not mention one without mentioning another. So that's going to happen. So going into part 4, we are reintroduced to the survivors, the teen survivors from, but unfortunately, without Patricia Arquette, no one really knows. From a lot of the research that I've done, nobody really knows why she didn't the next one, part 4.
I think she probably just didn't want to be known as.
I found it funny in the documentary when they were kind of talking about that like the majority of the actors were like, oh well, she was in kind of getting in a load of big movies at that stage, and I'm sure there was just scheduling issues. And then there was the guy who played the Dream or the Wizard Master, and he's just like, she wanted more money. I'm not talking a crazy amount more money. I'm talking well deserved more money, and they were just like, no. Yeah. So I always found it weird that like he stuck out like a sore thumb to me.
She was such a breakout star in 3
that was her first movie, wasn't it?
She was so good. So good.
She was pretty much taking over Nancy's part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 to 4.
Yeah, and there's a certain passing of the torch in that movie as well.
Yeah. And even the other guys, like the 2 guys that came back, they just said that the chemistry wasn't there between the 3 of them, because they had the big reunion scene towards the beginning, and it's just like they were like, we just didn't feel it because it's not Patricia Arquette.
It just agreed without putting her. She's in her acting to contribute to the cast. I think it really suffered for that, and that's unfortunate because I think had she been in it, it would have probably been just as good as Dream Warriors, but that didn't happen. So,
and another big thing that happened with coming into part 4 was this was actually the first movie where Robert Englund gets top bill as the star.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He has a main credit on the opening title sequence.
Well, that sort of speaks to the success and the
that's because
acclaim or whatever.
In the time between 3 and 4,
Dream Warriors, yeah.
In the time between 3 and 4, he'd basically done more TV interviews as Freddy Krueger and stuff than The Rock has done in his whole career at the moment, and that's saying something because that man's on television quite a lot.
Yes,
absolutely. But overall, like Johnny was saying, Dream Master was an actual really good and I think underrated.
Yes.
I think it's probably the most underrated out of the franchise.
I thought it was good, minus Patricia Arquette, though. I feel like it did suffer for that, but overall, it
did make up for itself. It did make up for itself by having the dog pee fire to rescue.
Right.
That's so good.
Yes.
So good. Also, I would never like that to happen. I feel that would be quite painful.
I wish I could do that. Anyway, that's awesome.
I don't.
You see, I actually think I think it speaks for how loyal the Nightmare on Elm Street fan base is how they weren't able to adapt to Patricia Arquette being in number 4, because in a lot of other franchises, those chicks are interchangeable. To be blatantly honest, you know what I mean? You can it's all good, but like people were like, it's not Patricia.
And she's so made her mark as an actress in that film that it's just strange for her to not be in the 4th one. Right. Like, they won't notice. Come on. Anyway, like, what? Yeah, Becky, like switching Becky's and Roseanne.
Oh, Jesus.
What?
thing I'm wondering is, I want to see what you guys think real quick, is do you think Patricia Arquette not being on board led to that character being killed?
Yes, I think so.
As in story, like they changed the whole story premise due to Patricia Arquette. I did feel that the Dream Warriors got hacked off very quickly in the start.
Yeah, I just think that it was very much affected by the fact that she wasn't in it. So that I think that affected the plot quite a bit.
Because after that we're introduced to Alice, who takes over kind of and starts getting everybody's powers.
Yeah.
And then she goes to Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Yes.
So I was just curious to see if you guys thought that maybe if she continued. I mean, I guess I kind of see Johnny's point where it's like she did get killed pretty quick, and it would kind of. I guess it all just depends on how much in advance they knew she wasn't going to be on board.
Well, what I'm saying is I feel that they might have actually rewritten the whole story due to the fact that I'm sure they did some test screening where it was just people were like, everybody else were like, it's not Patricia Arquette. So they're like,
yeah,
okay,
I agree.
we'll just kill all of them
with you, Johnny,
and we'll pass
totally.
the torch on to a bunch of different people.
I completely agree with Johnny on this one, yeah.
So going on, like I said, we get Alice now that kind of takes over, and that will transition into Dream Child Part 5.
Oh, Jesus.
Where
it's a rough watch.
That's a rough one, man.
And it's actually the least, well, not the least liked, but from the first five films, it was the least liked box office wise.
Yeah, that's understandable.
We kind of saw the start of the decline for the character in the movie. I think maybe not for the character as much, because I mean, like Johnny was saying, Freddy Krueger was starting to become like licensed. Like there was like plushies and
he was trademarked. He's Freddy Krueger.
I don't think it was the decline of the character. I think it was just a weak film. So I mean, I just think it
part of it is also you're going in and you're getting your third movie probably in like 3 years. Like they don't have time in between, and I think it was just it was rushed.
It suffered from a bit of overkill, maybe. You know.
Yeah, and that was on the time when the slashers in the 80s, all the franchises were kind of starting to but like you were saying, Freddy himself as a character was probably not like it was the biggest he ever was, because I mean he had his own TV show, Freddy's Nightmare. The merchandising, the being on all the TV shows. I just think that like
you see the thing with the Freddy character though, right? Like if you looked at Michael or Jason, if they were to start churning him out marketing wise the way that they turned out Freddy, it wouldn't have gone down half as well, because it would have looked like they'd sold out. But like Freddy's a showman from start to finish, so him trying to get all these TV spots and everything kind of like half made sense, you know?
Yeah,
definitely.
It was so hugely popular by that time that it almost didn't matter if it was a good movie or not, because people just wanted to see it based on the fact that they'd seen all the other ones, and based on the fact that, you know, it's Freddy Krueger and you want to see what he's up to. So, you know, it's just, I don't know. It was a movie. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to really go on that one. It was just
painted by numbers.
I mean, there was some good elements to it, but decent elements to it, but nothing to really go too much in depth. I guess the biggest thing to say that movie did was kind of start the downward spiral for the franchise, because
there's only one bad movie after that, and then there's New Nightmare, which was actually bloody good.
Well, yeah, but
absolutely.
They were getting ready for the end game after that, kind of.
Yeah.
Because after such bad reviews and just how bad the fifth one did, they started to go a couple years later and start going into looking into ending it. and going into Freddy's Dead.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, they were leaving it with Freddy's Dead, and then Freddy's Dead was also not very good. And Wes Craven was like, you can't leave it on that. And then he's like, I'll come back and I'm going to do one.
Yeah. It was not very good. No,
it was not very good at all. It was actually worse than 5.
And I guess we'll go ahead and start getting into Freddy's Dead real quick. It was so campy, and so just cartoonish and gimmicky, and
hokey.
It just didn't.
Hokey.
I guess we can tie in our discussion with Roseanne, because Roseanne Barr was in Freddy's Dead. Her and Tom Arnold were in there.
I did like the goofy little. I mean, I can appreciate the camp value of it a little bit, because I'm a big fan of Bride of Chucky, which also has that camp value.
Yeah, that's good camp.
So yeah, it is, and so I can appreciate that about it, absolutely. But overall, I just didn't. None of it like really rang true for me. But that is an aspect of it that I did appreciate quite a bit. So. Was the camp.
One of the positive outcomes to me for that one is that it did have the franchise's first female director. For Freddy's Dead, one of the former producers on, I don't know if they were all the movies, but was a producer on a few of the movies. She was given the reins to go ahead and direct that film, which I thought was really, really good, especially at that time. That really wasn't really known in the industry for female directors, especially in the horror genre.
Yeah, that's
so. Good. I thought that was a good step.
Well, being a producer on so many of the films, you know what's up, you know what's going on.
Did she though? Because it's a shit movie.
What?
I'm just calling a spade a spade. Did she though? Because it's not a great movie.
No,
it's not. So. No. You would have thought if she was a producer on the previous 5 or 4 of the 5 that
she would have made a better movie.
Well, she would have had a better feel for the movie anyway. Like, it was very off.
I understand.
But also, again, she might not have been the one to write it. She just pretty much directed it. With the gimmick stuff, I mean, they tried to put in the damn 3D glasses, bullcrap, and...
Yeah, well, that was the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was like, this is the thing. It's like, I don't want to know when to have to put 3D glasses on by the person in the movie putting 3D glasses on. That's how it happened. Like, we knew it was time for us to put the 3D glasses on because the character put 3D glasses on to go into the dream world, and it's like, this is ridiculous.
Oh, you gimmicky sons of bitches.
Yeah.
But you see, that's where the line, and it can be an issue sometimes when you go from producer to director. Producers are always thinking about the marketability of something, and I think that was the fine line stepped over. Like, okay, we need to write 3D into this. It can't be good enough that it's just we have some shit that happens in 3D. We need to write 3D into it, so they're in there because we can sell that, So she didn't have the full blown director head, because I feel the full blown director would have been like.
We can all agree that Freddy's Dead was pretty terrible.
Killed Freddy.
And after 2 back-to-back studs,
sinkers,
we needed a savior.
Yes, definitely.
That's Craven and Wes Craven's New Nightmare,
which is stupidly great. It's so good. It's the Dr. Pepper of the franchise, I think.
Wes Craven came in and saved it. He saved it.
Well, actually, like, box office-wise, he technically didn't. Because, I remember even reading reviews from, like, the critics and stuff. They're like, this is crap. It's just another piece of drivel. But, you see, critics get stinted on stuff very quickly, I think. And I think they just had a bit of a disdain for it after the last 2 movies.
Yeah, I think...
And the critics have always been against horror movies from the beginning.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Yeah, the critics, are not going to... Other than the critics such as... us are not going to, like, the New York Times is not going to give any of the Nightmare on Elm Street films like rave reviews.
I feel critics' jobs are to go in there and absolutely rip your movie to bits.
Yes.
Yeah, and the thing, like, the biggest thing with this movie is it's so based on real life situations that happened to the cast,
Mhm.
and because like with the beginning with Heather being harassed by phone calls and stuff like that, that actually really happened to her in real life. She had a stalker.
Yeah.
She actually moved like out of country.
A stalker that was obsessed with just the 10 of us being canceled, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
No way.
And then
out of everything she
Also-
did, it's a 10 of us stalker. God, goodness me.
Yes.
Also, another part of it was like the earthquakes that kept happening in the movie.
Yeah.
That's because they actually went through while filming one of the big earthquakes in I think California or wherever they were filming happened at that time too. So a lot of it was based off of reality put into this movie, and I think it's just people felt that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, the critics just didn't. But I'm gonna apologize for our people who don't like swearing, but fuck the critics. You know what I mean?
Bottom line was New Nightmare was very creative. It was a really well-made film, and the performances were strong, and it was scary. So, I mean, I found nothing not to like about it.
And
personally.
I will say as well, usually when the killer, like, you know, when Jason Friday the 13th 10, or what I like to call Jason in space, you know, when they usually kind of get that end of franchise upgrade, and it usually looks terrible. I liked the claw upgrade. That was a very, very cool claw.
I agree with you.
Very subtle, but very cool upgrade.
I'm very biased when it comes to New Nightmare. I'm a big defender of it because I think a lot of people or film goers didn't appreciate the how well the film was made. And because it is a movie within a movie, and so it's very, very different from the rest of them. So I think people were pretty put off by that. But I really liked it. I liked.
They actually made
jump.
Freddy scary. They made Freddy scary again. That's like
Yep. Agreed.
But then also made him funny because we got Robert Englund doing his classic Freddy gimmick during the movie too. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
We could definitely get into more of our personal thoughts once we get into the live podcast.
Yeah.
So we'll just go in and say that this was, from the three of us, probably, I would say, you guys think probably what, the second best of the franchise?
I would say it's the second best next to Dream Warriors, yes.
Which?
In my opinion.
New Nightmare?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. It's because Wes Craven in number one didn't know what he had in his hands at the time. No one did. With Freddy, and I think it was also cool to let Wes Craven come back and play with the character again, now that he knew what the character was with a fully developed Freddy, and it was very cool.
And that actually being the only movie of the franchise that was directed by somebody who already directed one, because it was a different director for every single movie.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Yeah, I think it's only fitting he got the dual credit as well.
Yeah, and so New Nightmare, like we said, is probably didn't get the commercial success at the beginning, but I think kind of got its just desserts at the end. It go down as probably the one of the brighter points of the franchise.
Agreed. Yeah.
How do you guys feel about touching on Freddy versus Jason real quick before we end the podcast?
I'm going to put it out there, and I don't give
It's
a monkey's what anybody says. I like it. It's stupid, it's funny, but it's in the right levels. It has enough of both. You got two very, very big horror genre characters in the one movie, and it's very, very hard to find that fine level of symbiosis where everyone gets to do their own thing, but you have a whole bunch of new characters now, and how do you bring two bunches of characters and a bunch of teenagers all into the one mix? And I thought they handled that very well. It was unfortunately the dialogue was very basic and stuff like that, but Yeah, okay.
And
It wasn't the world's greatest movie, man.
It
But
felt
I've
more
waited.
like a Jason movie than a Freddy movie to me.
No, well, not really, because Freddy's always
that's where I
always,
disagree too. Because I felt it was more of a nightmare movie than it was a
yeah.
Friday the 13th movie.
Freddy's stalking down the kids in his own way, sorry, not Freddy. Jason is stalking down the kids in his own way, but it's all under Freddy's guise and push. Then the kids are actually suffering from the Freddy nightmares the whole time, and then, as I said, Jason's kind of running around doing his own thing.
Yeah.
I think we lost.
I think we may have lost her, but we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
The one thing, and I think you said you watched the documentary.
I did.
The one thing that I liked, that I found out when I watched it, was that Kelly Rowland scene towards the end where she's kind of like trying to like talk Freddy down and stuff like that, and making fun of the sweater and all that stuff, and calling him the F word.
Yeah,
because I don't want to say it. That actually wasn't originally in the script. They wanted to do Nancy's original speech from the first Nightmare on Elm Street, where she was like, you don't have any power over me anymore. Any power that I gave to you, I'm taking away.
Mm-hmm.
And then Freddy was supposed to be standing behind her and saying, "Wrong person, bitch," and kill her. That would have been so much perfect than what they ended up going with calling him a Christmas tree and calling him a fruit cake and all that stupid shit.
I think they were just having fun with it.
I guess. It
was a pretty they needed a bit of levity near the end, because kind of unseasonably for a nightmare movie, it was actually pretty serious up until that kind of end scene. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a big favorite of mine, but the battle scenes, like in the middle and the end, did definitely make a good fanboy. For the film, so I guess I can give it that as a positive. But the movie itself, just, I don't know, I just was not a big fan of it myself.
The storyline. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I have a love for it from a fan, like as you said, from a fanboy aspect.
Exactly.
There was also a fucking epic soundtrack.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, because of that fact, with it being Freddy versus Jason, it was the highest grossing movie in the franchise. So I mean, obviously that was going to happen.
Yeah, well, it had to. I'm so upset we never got to see him, Ash, and Jason.
Yeah, when people go into stuff like that, I just feel like those kind of battles are just better for the comics. I don't know what it is. Sometimes it just doesn't fit. Sometimes movie wise.
I won't lie to you. If it was any other character they were trying to integrate in, I would have said no. But just the thoughts of Ash and Freddy talking shit at each other.
Yeah.
I
just think that came down to a property right thing, right? Because I don't think they own the rights to Ash or Evil Dead.
Yeah, there was an issue there. I don't think it was even from their end. I think it was from the Friday the 13th end. Actually, the same thing that's after bringing down Gun Media's game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was actually the same property issue that was going on with Friday the 13th is what stopped the second movie happening. It's not Freddy related.
Yeah, definitely.
Although there's a very good short movie on YouTube if anyone ever wants to check it out, where someone got some people dressed up and they did it, and it's not half bad.
Well, I think we covered them all pretty good.
I would say so.
I don't really want to go on and do the remake because I don't want to give that any light of day.
I'm not even going to say it was a movie. It sucked.
Yeah.
What I will say is I feel bad that that movie tarnished. I can't remember the actor's name now off the top of my head, but I know
Jack.
Yeah.
can't remember his name.
Yeah, I can't remember it.
I know
but,
what you're talking about.
Yeah, he's a bloody good
Yeah,
actor, and it's just like I feel he gets blamed for doing a very bad job there the whole time, and it's like there was a director behind the camera there telling him to do these things. You know, like if he was told to do it more wise ass, I'm sure he would have done it more wise ass. Because if you look at Horshack, like Horshack's a wise ass little,
Yeah.
you know, so he definitely had it in him. So I think it's more of a directorial issue than his. I will say that about the movie. Other than that,
I think that should put a fine little bow on this episode. It was a little bit of a longer episode, but I mean, it's kind of hard not to talk a lot when we're talking about one of the more influential franchise in the horror genre. So
yeah, totally agree.
I think this was a really pretty good second episode. Like I said, we got in depth on a really good franchise. So, Johnny, if you want to go ahead and give your closing outro.
I suppose just make sure to follow myself and the Giz on Instagram on _Gorecast, or on Twitter at TheGorecast, and we're on Facebook and all that kind of stuff, and check the promos out on YouTube. And I don't really have any more news until I get told when the TV show launch is happening. So
once you get that, just you'll tweet it, and I'll maybe throw a little bit of information on my Twitter once we kind of get that resolved and find out when your guys' season 2 will be debuting.
Yeah, well, I would imagine that not unlike when we had the launch trailer for when it was supposed to be debuting, it won't be hard not to find it on the internet if you type in the word Gorecast, because it was bloody everywhere. We got a load of views on Facebook actually on the video, so I'm very happy with it. Or I did my little Ron Burgundy thing because I love Ron.
You can find me on Horrormino, and again on Twitter at Buzz14500517.
That's at Buzz41500157.
There you will get all the latest up-to-date information about the podcast and future episodes, all that good stuff. And you can follow Paquita because she seems to have disappeared on us. So
I can tell you her Twitter because it was that easy to remember. Oh no, wait, can I? I can. Yeah, it's Paquita S3 on the twits.
Follow her on Twitter. Like I said, she does reviews for Horrormino and Stream Radio by herself and collabs with me. So, good episode. It was good to have her on board. For the last couple seconds.
Yeah, hope Freddie didn't get her.
Freddie got her.
Before we actually go, I want to do one quick thing with you. I just want to see if we can do it, because one of the awesome things about Dream Warriors is we forgot to talk about that epic theme tune. Yeah, so I'm gonna get you to try and hit the high note of Dream Warriors, and then I'm gonna give it a go, and then we can do the show over. Dream Warriors. That's me.
Well, the Dream Warriors.
I think you beat me.
Don't want to dream no more.
Okay, that's how you end a show, man. You got to have a big finish. We're doing jazz hands here off camera. You can't see us.
Jazz hands. Thanks for listening, everybody, and welcome to Prime Time, bitch.
That's a way better finish line than last week.